Hi, this is Empire of the Mind. I'm Dr. Bruce Gilley. Behind every European colonial state were thousands of colonial civil servants who were sent to the colonies often at a very young age, and whose work in fields as diverse as agriculture, industry, and administration laid the foundations for the human flourishing that took place under colonialism. In this episode, we meet one colonial civil servant, Dr. Anthony Young, born in 1932, who at the tender age of 26 was sent to British Nyasaland, now Malawi, in 1958 to work on soil surveys in the Agricultural Service. Soil surveys were one of the many contributions that British colonialism made to economic and human development in the colonies. Agricultural development included not just crop rotation, agricultural extension, production, and marketing, but also knowing which crops would grow in the soils of the various colonies. Anthony Young worked for 4 years in Nyasaland and returned several times to independent Malawi and other former British colonies during his long and storied career. In this interview, I began by asking him to describe his daily work in colonial Nyasaland.
I had a team of assistants. There's a picture of them in one of my books. Cartographer, head of the group, driver, general labourer. I had 4 Africans. We all travelled around in the Land Rover.
Describe the security situation you had when you traveled. So you traveled with your team, but you didn't have a guard with you. Is that right?
You didn't need guards, no. I met a large proportion of the Colonial Service officers, as we call them, often in the club or on the tennis court and so forth. So my wife and I got to know a wide range of people, not just in agriculture, but administration, medical, forestry, all the branches. In all my time there, everybody I met was doing a job to the best of their ability. They were not freewheeling. They were not taking things easy and just going to the bar and the sports field and so forth. I don't think I met anybody who was not trying to do their best. There was no anti-British feeling. My work meant that I travelled to all parts of the country, stayed in rest houses, talked to large numbers of farmers, and I never had any opposition whatever, any bad feeling. Quite early there was a visit by Queen Elizabeth, the Queen Mother, and she likes horse racing. So we put on a local horse race for her. I've got a picture of her leaning over the rails with one policeman standing discreetly behind him, not rows of police or soldiers or anything. Now, early on, Nyasaland had a state of emergency, a very minor one compared to Kenya's, but they weren't rioting against British rule. What annoyed the Africans was that Britain had agreed that they should be part of the Federation of Rhodesia and Nyasaland. And Malawi is predominantly African, and they were worried that Southern Rhodesia, now Zimbabwe, would dominate. And that was what they those were they were rioting or causing damage and so forth. There
Yeah.
was, during this state of emergency, I think 2 people got killed at one stage. And the British press made a lot about this state of emergency. It turned out that one of the British police had trodden on a woman's toe or something like that. When that had been sorted out, we were back to ordinary British colonial rule. When I went out, I didn't realize that independence was going to come up.
In your time, when you were serving there and you were going around the country and you were running into these election meetings or these campaign rallies for Hastings Banda's movement, what was your feeling about this movement?
They were completely dominant.
And why was that? Why was there really just one movement?
Just one party. Yeah. MCP, Malawi Congress Party.
And why was that?
The British used to joke occasionally if you had a humorous sketch at the club, it was the Mass Confusion Party.
Did some of your friends believe that it was too early for independence?
Oh, yeah, everybody. All the British. And that's not just one country. All over Africa. The British, I suppose, had been fondly hoping that in another 5 or even 10 years, the Africans would be ready to govern themselves. But no, we didn't, and they weren't. We set up a system of master farmers, who were preferentially visited by the agricultural system, that's the African level, and given advice on what to do and how to so forth. President Banda apparently said, abolished this and said, we're all master farmers now.
It would be nice to report that things have got better since Hastings Banda was thrown out of power in a 1994 referendum. Malawi has indeed had multi-party elections since 1994, but the country remains mired in poverty, corruption, aid dependency, and its population, which was just 5 million at the time of Anthony Young's service, is now 20 million and is expected to reach 60 million by the end of this century. Well, thank you very much for your time, and I should say thank you for your service to the British Empire.
Well, we'll keep in touch.